Okay, thanks very much, David. That was brilliant. Good evening, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. Many thanks to the Free Libertarians for giving us this forum. I am Catherine, representing the Free Speechers Wales and West. We set up 18 months ago. We're based in Cardiff and we cover Wales and some of the border areas, the cities and surrounding towns and villages, including Bath and Bristol. If you'd like to know more about us, there's a little setup on the table over there. Grab a card, do write down your email address. I think the list is circulating and we'll be sure to get in touch. We're a free speech organisation. We're not connected with any political party, any religious group or any other social organisation. Our aim is to promote and protect fundamental human rights of freedom of speech, expression and lawful protest for absolutely everyone in the UK. Tonight, we're going to talk to Ben Dybowski. It's not just us in the room, we are live streaming to the Anglican community via the Oxford Centre for Religion and Public Life. I'm just going to talk about hate crimes because they're now being used as a great excuse by the police and other agencies to crack down on free speech. 10 years ago, in 2012, 42,000 hate crimes were recorded. Now, these weren't trivial cases. They were mostly involving actual physical violence and serious damage to property, including arson. They were mostly to do with race and religion. But 10 years later, in 2022, the last year of lockdown and the last year the government has provided us with statistics, the number has gone up from 42 to 155,000, which is amazing when you consider how much time everyone spent harmlessly at home in that year. Over half of the hate crimes were now for public order offences, and this is where we get into the area of words and hurt feelings. These did not involve, not all of them involved actual violence or damage. The most recent public order offence that has hit our headlines was the case of an autistic girl being dragged off, literally screaming to jail for saying that a police officer looked like her lesbian grandmother. Her grandmother is apparently a lesbian. It's quite possible she looks like the officer, so there is nothing wrong with the statement, but the police officer was very offended. Now, we can argue whether lockdown was a cause, a symptom, or an accelerator on the restrictions of freedoms that we are now suffering from. But whatever it was, lockdown gave us a horrendous idea of what an authoritarian future in the UK might look like. Now, Ben is going to talk about his experiences as an agency teacher in the city of Llandaff, that's Dinas Llandaff in Welsh, in Cardiff. Llandaff is quite small. According to a census in 2021, the population is under 9,000, and from a religious point of view, it's unusually religious and homogenous. Over half the population described themselves as Christian, 30% were atheist or agnostic, and just 1.5% each were Hindu or Muslim. Given these figures, you would not expect Llandaff to be a hotbed of religious anti-Catholic intolerance. And if there were any anti-Catholic or any anti-Christian intolerance, perhaps the last place you would expect to find it would be in a school with the actual name, Bishop of Llandaff Church in Wales High School. However, for professing some pretty commonly held Christian views, and also views that most of the non-religious population of the UK would agree with, Ben was dismissed for hate speech. Not only that, but he was reported to an educational council. Is the investigation still ongoing?
Actually, I've got an update. I'll mention it in a moment. It's okay. They made a final decision. I'll let you know in a second.
Okay. While this investigation was going on, though, Ben was banned from working as a teacher, so he was left in limbo for some considerable number of months. Ben has appeared in the Mail on Sunday and on GB News with Father Calvin Robinson, and he was interviewed by Peter Whittle of the New Culture Forum. So we're really pleased to have him here. Ben, I think, do you want to say a few words as an opener, or should we just go straight into questions? But I will ask you some questions, and then we will take some questions from the audience and also from participants on Zoom.
Just a few things as an opening. First of all, thank you very much for coming. Thanks for your interest in my case. I know this meeting is not only about this case and the cause of free speech. There's some other important issues, but thank you for being here. Also, I recognize a few faces. Some of you took part in a meeting a while ago that Catherine organized in Cardiff. So thank you very much for that. Quite a few of you emailed me. There may have been also some donations. I haven't exactly tracked them yet. So if I haven't thanked yet, I do apologize. Very busy time in my life recently. Lots of things happening. I am planning to get via email with all of you who have got in touch with me and supported my case. I'm doing fundraising to cover the legal fees, which are just about to begin, because the case before the employment tribunal is very early stages. And also there is a campaign I'm working on with a group of friends, Christian friends and friends who support free speech. I'm going to mention that later on. And all of this information you can find on the website, Ben Dybowski, my name, my surname. It's going to be in the links, bendybowski.com. If you go there, you'll find out everything I'm going to say now, maybe a few other things, and a few relevant links. So that's all I want to say. And thanks again for organizing to David. Yes.
We'll just run through a few things first, and then we will have
very pertinent to who he is.
Okay, if you can be really quick about it.
Have you approached Welby for contributions to your court case?
Actually, I have informed Cardinal Welby of the situation. Archbishop. Well, sorry, I'm Catholic, so I will from time to time I will move into the Catholic nomenclature. Yes, I have let them know. I have even emailed, contacted the Bishop of Llandaff, currently a woman. I haven't heard from Archbishop Welby yet. I will contact him again. I have received a very general email acknowledging that my case.
If he fails to support you, could I suggest that you take out a case against him under hate speech?
Right, very interesting. I'll consider that. I'll run it.
Will raise your profile dramatically.
Okay,
good.
Thanks.
Yep, thanks for the tip.
We're gonna run through, a basic description of what Ben has been through, and then we will do questions. So, you have been a teacher for over 20 years, haven't you? Was it 23 years?
Although I had to correct one probably minor thing. At that school, I worked as a teacher assistant, not as a teacher. Most of my career, teaching career, I was a teacher of English as a foreign language for private language schools, both in Poland and in Britain. But at that particular school, I was just a teacher assistant.
Sure. So how did you come to be working as an agency teacher for this school? What was your path there?
You know, the lockdown, the crazy lockdown, killed off, I might say, my small, not my, but the small language school I worked for in Cardiff. Because for 2 years it was impossible to organize courses for large groups of students from the continent. Okay. So I registered with an agency after that, and simply the agency put me in that school. After a short period at another school, which is also interesting. I'm not sure if we have time to talk about that at some point today, but anyway, my agency placed me there. The school liked me. Within days, they said, Ben, do you want to stay with us long term? We didn't specify how long, but they offered that themselves. They said, we like you. If you want to stay with us, we'll keep booking you through the agency. And I've had decent of good reviews, I might say. Even the headmaster confirmed during our last conversation, everything I've heard about your work was positive.
Fantastic. And so you moved to the high school as an agency teacher directly because of the lockdown problem?
I mean, you could say directly, yeah, in a way directly, yes. Because I'd rather work for language schools. The money is much better, private language schools. you know, and I was a teacher there. Here I was a teacher assistant, but it was a very interesting experience, even including the final, you know, unfortunate episode.
Do you want to explain what actually happened at this training seminar? The problem was that there was a diversity and inclusion training seminar. It was for staff only. Now, it wasn't absolutely compulsory in your case because you were an agency teacher, but it was compulsory for the other permanent teachers. So
actually, it was also in my case for a different reason. My department had, because I worked in this, you know, special educational kind of needs section of the school. So we had our own training for some of the time, but this seminar was obligatory, was a must for everybody. Through some technical thing.
You didn't really feel that you could say no to going to this seminar. It wouldn't have been a sensible career choice to refuse to go.
Not quite like that. Our superior told us, listen, you are supposed to be there, but because we've done our own training session overlapping the other one. If you decide, it was like off the record, if you decide to go home a little early, it's fine, but theoretically you should be there, but nobody will mind if you go a little bit early. So I decided, why not take advantage of, I'm keen to learn.
You're expecting to learn something.
Yes, I also wanted to see what it looks like. I had never taken before part in a seminar training like that. I had read stuff, so I was simply curious as well.
If you were offered the opportunity, then the choice to go to a training seminar again, would you say yes?
Definitely, definitely. I like you know, I like hearing of various attitudes, approaches, and not to cause any trouble, because I didn't mean that. I just asked.
That's very forgiving of you. So
no, I just asked. So I'll answer now your question directly. At the end, there was a question and answer session. And by the way, some of you know the story, so you know, I'll give you the executive summary. Yes,
we'll start with. We were going to assume that people don't know the story. So, okay, so there was a certain amount of choice, but there wasn't a certain amount of choice. With the permanent teachers, it was compulsory, but there was this diversity and inclusion training seminar, and you went along to it. And what happened then?
Yes, and at the end there was we were encouraged to ask questions, to share our opinions on the things that were said. By the way, it was announced. It had been announced. It's a safe space, and we were encouraged to speak freely, you know, about our views.
Was that the actual words that they used?
Yeah, safe space. Yeah, an encouragement to speak up your mind, you know, which fair enough, because there were very sensitive issues to do with discrimination, you know. So these are important things, and I absolutely agree that people should talk about this, be made aware of some aspects. The question is how, and how you understand it, how you do it. So I asked that the woman who described herself somewhere, not during that meeting, as a bisexual campaigner for change with links to Stonewall.
This is the trainer?
Yeah, the trainer from an external organization called Diverse Camry. By the way, I let them know that I was sacked after their inclusion and diversity seminar, and they said, "Oh, we don't deal with individual cases. We just promote diversity and inclusion generally, but we don't deal with, like, you know, casualties."
To be fair to Diverse Camry, I mean, it was really nothing to do with that, was it? I mean,
sorry.
It wasn't really anything to do with Diverse Camry, though. I mean, they provided the training, but it wasn't them. I don't think it was them who complained about you.
Oh, no.
They provided the training.
The complaints started in they came from the school, from the staff.
It wasn't really anything to do with that.
No, that woman, she just delivered that seminar.
Who did complain about you?
I don't know exactly, but anyway, let me just say, because I don't think I've mentioned what I said. So I said, could you define for me, I asked that woman, could you define for me discrimination, please? Because it sounds to me like a mere expressing of somebody's views might be viewed as discrimination. So I said, I'll give you specific examples. I've got some views that some people don't like, but they are beliefs that I hold very dearly. They're important to me. For example, one of them is, I said, I believe a true marriage is between a man and a woman. I said, I acknowledge the state legislates made other options available, legal. But for me, true marriage is man and a woman. As a Christian, obviously it's a no-brainer. Secondly, I said, I believe human life starts as conception and should be protected from that moment. I know loads of people disagree with this, but it's, first of all, it's also a Christian view. And secondly, I think it's a scientific, we know that new DNA appears at the moment of conception. But anyway, so I believe this. That's my view, which I thought I had a right to, especially if it's a Christian school, that it shouldn't be a problem to even mention that. And thirdly, I said, I'm critical of some aspects of Islam. I didn't go into detail, but it's obvious which ones for anybody in the West. The next day, the headmaster.
So you were putting these forward as absolute statements.
No, the question was, would me saying these things, could this be viewed as discrimination?
Yeah.
And the answer was it could. The answer was holding those views is fine, but expressing them could be discrimination.
I mean,
so I can think that marriage is man and a woman, but if I say that, I could be discriminating against someone, as we know happens in the country.
This might be nitpicking a bit, but there is a difference between saying, I believe true marriage is between a man and a woman, and saying, would me saying that true marriage is between a man and a woman be held as discrimination?
Yeah, so actually, I didn't even say that yet. It was just part of a question. You're right.
Or did you do both? Did you make it clear that those were?
No, I said that they are my views.
Yeah.
And I thought it's obvious. It's in a Christian school. I believe most of a big section of the teachers, the staff, not everybody, but a big section, thought the same as me. I mean, by the way, the official teaching of the Anglican Church is that most abortions are evil, and that marriage is a gift from God for man and a woman.
Yeah.
So that's. I mean.
What was the reaction of the people in the room?
There was no reaction. I asked actually a friend of mine afterwards, and he said, after I heard what the headmaster said, the next day, so maybe to keep the time sequence simple, I'll just say what happened the next day. The headmaster,
Well, just to do it in the time sequence though, but did you hear
any
intakes of breath? Was there a shocked reaction? The trainer?
Nothing. A friend of mine, I was in front, I was right in front, so I couldn't really see too much, but no, there was nothing.
No sudden, terrible, deadly silence.
No. A friend of mine later told me, because I did ask him, and he said, "Yeah, I'll tell you what. When you asked that question, it was very close to the end of the day. This happened in the afternoon after hours." He said, "Oh, a lot of people started looking at their watches, like thinking, oh, another 5 minutes. We'd rather be home." So like nobody seemed, at least, showed any shock. And why should they? I mean, come on. Okay. But anyway, the next day the headmaster tells me, Ben, and
so it all passes that incident.
Yeah, because that was the last event. So it was afternoon 6 p.m. or so later.
Next day, goes home, come into school, and then what?
Yeah, second period. So just in the middle of the school, at the beginning, not even at the end. Second period, my superior is waiting for me outside my classroom where I was supposed to teach at that time, and she says with a specific type of face and voice, which obviously suggested something to me. She says, "Oh, Ben, the headmaster would like to see you in his office." And I just said to her, "So much for a safe space, I didn't know what was coming. I thought I would be simply told off. I thought, honestly, yes, in this day and age, I'm not naive. Probably he will tell me, Ben, I know, you believe this. I believe the same. This is a Christian school, but, we have to be careful. So don't bang on too much about your views, okay? Yeah, you have them, no problem. But just, you don't have to," which anyway had been the case, because I was a teacher assistant. I wasn't there to talk about my views. But no, he said, "You offended some people. And I discussed with my deputy whether I should sack you that very moment, that very afternoon."
He said that?
Yes, he said that. I've got it. By the way, I've got it on record. I recorded half of it. At some point, it seemed to me so unbelievable. Like I said, if I ever retell this story to someone, I wasn't thinking in legal terms, but just, maybe at the back of my mind already.
How did you do that? Was a sort of stealthy hand down the jeans pocket to the mobile phone? Or what?
I'm not very, 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 very bright, but I just said, let me just switch off my, the bell, because I'm expecting a phone call, or I can't remember, something like this. And I turned it on, and put it like, no, I didn't push it his way, but I just put it on the desk. So thank God I've got it on record. So he tells me, "Ben, you offended some people. I discussed sacking you there." And sacking is a general term. I work through an agency. But I know, I talked to lawyers, I talked to ACAS, they told me that I have, even as a person working through an agency, I did have some rights the same as normal employees, full-time employees. So I know that for a fact. So anyway, I started recording this. He says, you offended some people. Some people
will allow you, but we're going to continue the narrative now. So the headmaster, sorry for the people on Zoom, it seems that the network, the internet connection is not very strong here, but hopefully you're back for good now. I think we'd got to the headmaster saying that he had been talking about dismissing you, but he hadn't actually dismissed you.
Yes.
Was there a turning point in that conversation? What happened?
This is a very good question. I already kind of hinted at that, or maybe expressed that, but let's repeat this. So he tells me, yes, I discussed with my deputy dismissing you that very day after that meeting, that safe space meeting, but then we remembered it was safe space, so hence the conversation we are having.
What pushed the headmaster over the edge?
I believe the headmaster is woke himself. I've got some reason to believe that, but even if that weren't the case, I think he decided it's safer to get rid of Ben, because otherwise the woke brigade will be on my case. So it's easier. They will be now watching him and then reminding me, oh, is Ben still here? You know, he said something in a private conversation, and I think he just decided, you know, it's a hot potato, hot anti-woke potato. Yeah. We don't need that problem.
Did he express concern over things that you might say in your private life or on social media? Was that one of his
So this is when
reasons?
I told him it's fine for me not to talk about these issues at the school. I said I hadn't been doing this and I wasn't planning to, because it's not part of my brief. I just said it's a bit surprising. It should be a big issue in a Christian school. But I said I still hold them, and I will express them, or I'm likely. I can't remember how I phrased that. I've got it on record actually, as I said. And he said, "Oh, that would go against the school's policy of Christian love and inclusion, or something like this." So I said, "Wow, why these views? I mean, they are Christian views." He, by the way, at some point he said, "You know, I'm Catholic too," because I mentioned my Catholic base. So I said, "Oh, hang on. So you believe the same things?" And he said, "Oh, but your problem is you voice your views." You express your views.
It's so, all right to have the views.
Honestly, at that moment, I was beginning to think this is a classic. And then later on, when he escorted me within 10-15 minutes, because I said, no, I'm not going to self-censor. I asked him what other views would be such problematic. For example, I was kind of, in a way, trying to get out of him a bit more, because I was already recording him. And I was also curious. I said, for example, I believe the government should be tougher on illegal immigration. Would that be a problem? He said, oh, that could be viewed as hate speech. And I said, it's His Majesty's government's position. So he said, and then the school even confirmed that was one of the also. So it's something I said in a conversation with the headmaster. I wasn't even promoting these views among students because that's not my job. And he uses that as an argument. Oh, this is a guy who could potentially express hate speech views. So anyway, but that's not all. He escorted me out of the school. I'm waiting.
So then he dismissed you.
Yeah, he said, no, listen,
just
you can't work here anymore. I said, could I work a few more days? Because my agency, it was before some break, Easter break, I think. My agency is not likely to find me anything. I promise not to talk about my views. Can I just work another 2? I knew the answer, kind of, but I thought I'll ask. He said, no, you have to leave now. So he walks me out of the school, and I'm thinking, what a classic, inclusion and diversity meeting, safe space. I ask an innocent question with 3 mainstream views, not only Christian, but generally. A lot of people think the same thing in Britain. And then I'm being kicked out of the school. I think this is Orwell, pure Orwell,
It's completely ludicrous, but just before he dismissed you, was there any suggestion that if you were going to stay on, that he would be, I don't know, trying to limit your activities on social media or any of those?
No, he just asked me not to talk about my views, those views. That's why I asked him about some other views, because in the school.
So he wasn't bothered about what you might put on Twitter or anything like that.
I think that was the result of my question, but I said, you know, I still might be expressing those things in my private life. This is how I phrased it. At some point, he even suggested that in a pub, if I said something in a pub in a conversation, that could also, in some cases, it could go against the school, damage the school's reputation.
Well, to see from a free speech perspective, he wasn't just trying to limit what you said in the school.
No,
he was looking outside.
I mean, he's basically told me if you keep expressing, if you do express these views outside the school, it could damage the school's reputation, and you know, you wouldn't be able to work here. So I said, no, I'm not going to self-censor. Come on. And this is what it led within minutes to me being escorted out of the school. But that's not all. He told me there and then he's going to report me to Education Workforce Council. It's a body that monitors, regulates teachers and teacher assistants, to block me from teaching because
well, they're going to carry out an investigation.
They finished it out. I've got the results now. I've got the verdict. Anyway, because he said, this is your views are a safeguarding issue. A safeguarding issue means you're dangerous to work with young people. Normally, it's something to do with sex, violence, but it can also be to do with views like, you know, turning them into terrorists, for example. That would be a safeguarding issue. So believing that marriage is man and a woman, you know, I'm a danger to kids. Whoever is Christian here, even the late Queen probably couldn't work at that school because I believe she held some Christian views, so she would be a safeguarding issues. She couldn't get close to kids, you know. What kind of, obviously he went over the top, and the decision from the Education Workforce Council came to me earlier this week in my favor. To be quite honest, myself and Paul Diamond, who is a lawyer who represents me, helps me, we were surprised because we thought they will be woke as well.
This is news to me.
Yes. No, sorry, I didn't. I may have emailed or maybe not. Sorry, it just came the other day. Honestly, just came the other. I just yesterday spoke about this to Paul Diamond, the lawyer who. So sorry, I haven't updated you.
You were really expecting it to be negative, though.
We thought so because we heard of some similar, not exactly, because my case in some ways was unique because like nothing happened. It wasn't that he found something that I had already said. I just said that I have those views and I might express them. So the case was, in a way, a very clear-cut case of a thought crime. I had the wrong thoughts and I said, I might express them one day. Ooh, let's nip it in the bud, you know. So in this way, thank God that there are still some reasonable people in this country, not only in this room, obviously.
Do you think that it was because they were being reasonable, or do you think that the interviews on GB News and Peter Whittle?
We don't know, but I think that's a strong possibility that because they must have known I went to the media, I talk about my case, and maybe I come across as believable. Plus, they know. I mean, they knew anyway. I've got this recording.
Website,
yes, so
you got a lot of donations.
I think they knew. They knew that if they decided against me, I would go. I mean, not on myself, but with lawyers after them as well to show a systemic bias. Thank God they behaved rationally. They wrote a very sensible opinion. You know, the explanation of their decision. They said, there's no issue here. You said something in a safe space. Schools should be anyway places where different opinions should be expressed. So that was, honestly, I talked to Paul Diamond and we said, wow, this is, we can't quite believe this, how rational this is.
Paul Diamond is, he's a barrister. He's an extremely front-running barrister who specializes in religious cases,
religious freedom
or anti-religious
free speech issues. Yes,
cases.
yes.
So
he offers to help me at the moment for free. I'm doing the fundraising, so if at some point you want to support the case, because the employment. So this first stage finished. Thankfully, in a reasonable way and a way that vindicates me.
So you continue.
But I'm still in because I was still sacked.
Yeah.
Both my agencies sacked me for serious unprofessional conduct. And serious. And I've had only good reviews for months with them. And just because I said something Christian, this is serious. So I sued them. I launched the case, and the same with the school, because the headmaster, I've got it on record, says you cannot work here with those views, or if you express those views. So I was still sacked. So
the advisory group have ruled in your favor.
Yes.
So But it wasn't just the school that dismissed you, the agency
As well,
dispensed
yes.
with you as
But
well.
only based on what the school told me.
So what is your legal action looking? What are you and Paul Diamond hoping to do? Are you going to sue the school or the school and the agency?
Well, yes, the two cases are already going on, were launched before the employment tribunal against the agency, against the school for discrimination, religious discrimination, because the three views I expressed are the result of my religion. I mean, I would have reached those views, I'm pretty sure, even without being a Christian, because it's not rocket science. But and many people who are not religious hold those views. But anyway, they are part of my of what I believe.
Absolutely.
Because of my
Diamond's opinion readily available.
No, it won't be now, and we can't go into too many details because obviously it's an ongoing thing.
Is it readily available?
But opinion in what sense?
No, it won't be.
You said he published an opinion for you.
Did I say opinion?
No, barristers don't give opinions.
Written an opinion?
I'm sorry, barristers.
Sorry, maybe it's my English. No, the Education Workforce Council, they published an explanation of their decision. So maybe what was to do with
the barrister would never give an opinion.
Obviously, I know his opinions. I've got his opinions. We discussed things, but sure. But you know, they are not for publication because the case is going on now. The case is ongoing, and it's early stages. So
I mean, there's one thing just for the audience here. You do not originate from the UK. You come from Poland.
I was born in Poland when it was still communist, and I was actually chatting to a couple of people here, and then previously I mentioned that there's quite a few interesting similarities, but also differences between communism here now, some sort of communism, or the communism that some people are trying to impose on us, and the communism that I witnessed in Poland.
Just so that everybody knows how. When you lived in Poland, you essentially spent your youth under the communist regime. Yes. And how old were you when you left?
I came here, I spent a year in Britain in my 20s. I got a work permit. I worked in Cardiff for 1 year in the hospitality industry. I went, it was early 90s.
So you were 20 when you left?
I was, my first visit, I was 21 or 22, I can't remember.
Right.
And then only...
So you weren't a child, you had experience
no. I came here as an
under a adult.
I've always been
as a young adult,
a Britophile, originally Anglophile, but obviously when you get to know Britain more, you realize that Britain is not only England. I had always known that, but I got more interested in Scotland, Wales. So now I'm a Britophile, not also an Anglophile. I love England, but I love Wales as well. I'm a Britophile. I absolutely sympathize with what the gentleman earlier said about the unity of this country. I believe united we benefit and stand as well, and divided we will start falling. Putin is waiting for that. He will start influences all those small governments, bribing them, Putin and the China, whatever.
In the conversation,
but sorry, it's not veering off. Yes.
Sorry. It's just in the conversation with. Actually, no. Let's finish the whole story off. So you're going to take action against the school, against the agency as well.
Yes. It's already happened.
You've launched a website, and you've got a couple of ideas. One is a very interesting petition. Do you want to explain about that?
Yes, and this relates to that question that the gentleman over there asked me, and the point he was making. I absolutely believe this is a big cultural. Also, I'm a spiritual man. I believe in the supernatural. It is also a supernatural battle. There are forces of evil and good involved, but we don't need to go into that too deeply. But many of us have this feeling that some things are so wrong and so absurd that it's like even humanely strange to imagine that someone would come up with, like, you know, those 70 sexes or genders. You know, I was watching actually a BBC film not long ago where they educational film. They took it off now, their website, but you can still see it online somewhere on YouTube, where those sexual educators talk to 7, 8-year-old kids, maybe 9-year-old, and they tell them, oh, there's like 99 or 70, I can't remember, genders, and those kids are obviously they are polite, they're trying to be polite, but you can see on the faces like, what is that? What is that, please? I mean, they can't get their head around this, and this is happening now.
How
This is crazy. Sorry.
Going back to the petition.
Yes. Oh, yeah. The petition. Yes, of course, very important.
Our King Charles is a very spiritual guy. We all know that. He's talked about it himself. What are you going to do?
Yes, the petition. So it's the petition is going to focus at least on the surface on Christian beliefs, and the idea behind the petition is this. It came to me when I was watching the coronation ceremony. You know, beautiful Christian. Obviously, some people might be a bit over the top if you're more of the evangelical, you know, persuasion, all these ornaments, singing, and rich robes and what have you. But I think it was beautiful architecture. I'm Catholic, so you know, basically it was visually it was Catholic. That Abbey used to be Catholic as well, but I don't want to, you know, to talk about this too much. I don't want to lose.
It was very.
I don't want to lose too many of you. Yes.
The outfits were amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
We can agree on that.
Not the most up-to-date fashion, but still impressive.
Even the horses were magnificent.
Yeah. So anyway, you know, I'm listening to those hymns, to those wonderful prayers, and you know, if you're objective, I mean, the content of the prayers of the ceremony, you can't fault it. So anyway, I'm thinking when I listen to this new oath that the church, whose head is the king, will strive to create an environment in which people of all faith can live freely. Wonderful thing, you know, an environment, people of all faith. I believe in that. I'm Christian. I've got problems with Islam, but I want them to live freely. Obviously, some limits here and there might be important, but more or less freely.
But his specific.
Or more or less wrong. Sorry, I take it back.
His specific oath, because I think originally, the big important oath during the actual crowning was that he is going to be a defender of the faith. And
plural, you mean? Yes.
But
they didn't go for that. So thank God.
I think that previously he'd wanted to be defender of all faiths.
Yes, there was talk about this, but thank God they didn't go there.
But they
because that would be meaningless.
So it's defender of the faith.
Yeah, the faith, Christian faith.
So your petition.
Yes. So the idea is, and then obviously he will do his utmost to ensure the freedom to profess the true Christian faith, something like this in the original oath. So whether you're Christian or not, at least he's you know, declaring himself to be a Christian. He is making those promises. We don't know, you know. There's
and okay. What are you going to petition him for?
But okay,
we're going.
But the petition is actually, that's not really so relevant in a way. Let me explain. So if these oaths and these declarations are made publicly, how come that we live in a country where you can lose a job like that for saying a most fundamental Christian principle?
So what are you going
to
the
petition is
for?
Yes, the petition. Yeah. The idea is to, and this is also now I would like to hint at the fact that it's also a free speech petition, because everybody else will also benefit from Christians having asserting the right to express traditional views on family, sex, some moral issues. Because at the moment you cannot do that in many jobs, in many lines of career. You cannot do in education, for example. You can't speak openly in most schools about your beliefs. If you're a builder, I used to be a builder, or work in the building industry for a while, or hospitality. Not a big problem yet. In education, media, civil service, local authorities, massive problem. So how come a Christian king, Christian established church, and you can lose a job or even get arrested for mentioning a basic Christian belief? So the petition is to create a new law. No person shall be discriminated against or prosecuted for professing Christian beliefs, full stop. And that covers a lot of other issues. Even people who are non-religious will benefit from that. So I think because it's so close to the coronation, it's good timing, conducive to a success. And I'm not saying this will solve everything.
Sign that. I know the man.
Again?
You will never get chance to sign that. I know the man.
Quite.
No, but it doesn't matter. We want
My
also
father
to
worked for the family
but no,
years.
but the men in grey suits may think even if he doesn't click, they may think this is a way. I don't know if that's going to be successful, but we are hoping to highlight the issue. We are, as a group of people who suffered for expressing their common sense beliefs. Yes, I noticed you. Sorry, I'll let you ask the question in a moment. We are going to go to Buckingham Palace. Not necessarily we'll get inside, but outside, we'll get some press and we'll say, please, King, speak up for us. We've lost jobs, we've lost income, we were suspended, we were cancelled, this and that. Why don't you speak up? Even if he doesn't, the press will be there. That will put some pressure on the king, and maybe someone will say, listen, just make a short statement. You don't make laws anyway, but just make a short statement. Yes, I am a bit concerned in your Christmas or New Year talk. You know, I'm a bit concerned that people in this country with such amazing Christian heritage go to prison or lose jobs because of the say. So I would like Parliament to do something in the next Parliament.
It could be amazing. There could be people outside Buckingham Palace putting forward the first ever petition to King Charles III.
Yeah, that's a PR gimmick. That's a PR gimmick. Obviously, he doesn't make laws. But if he decided to say one sentence, yes, I'm a bit concerned. I think there's something wrong about it, even without getting too involved. Again, I've got no idea if that's possible, that will happen, but just think of the media potential. If someone goes to Buckingham Palace and a group of people with placards, you know, they get photos and they say, yes, we will deliver it, because you can deliver stuff to the king, you can send it. There's a way to. So yes, this is the petition. King Charles, will you be silent or will you speak up for us? Are you a Christian king, or is it just a gimmick? It's just a joke. As that gentleman says, it might be true. I don't know. Let him take his on his word.
International meeting, once he was king, was with Klaus Schwab at the WEF.
Yeah.
You can completely forget Charles and William. They're about as much use as a soup sandwich.
Very
sorry,
good.
there was a question here first. And then
I think we're going to do all the questions. I'm just going to ask a couple more, because I think they're interesting questions, and they'll probably put more questions into everybody's minds. And the first is, so just to recap briefly, so you've now got a website, you're taking action against the school, you're taking action against the agency, you have plans for the first people's petition to King Charles III, which will be amazing. And I know that there are some smaller projects in the pipeline as well. So that's where we are now. Just to go back a bit and perhaps widen it out beyond just religious speech freedoms. You did come from Poland, which we touched on before. Do you think that your experiences in Poland, living under an authoritarian regime, makes you more sensitive to the dangers of some of the paths that we're going down? And did your conversation with the headmaster, did the sort of tone in the atmosphere, because it sounds as if you were guessing at things that the headmaster might mean, but there were things that weren't. Did it was the sort of atmosphere the same as it might be under a properly authoritarian regime?
Yes, very, very much so. Lots of similarities. For example, you had to pretend you agreed with some things. In some situations, you know, you couldn't openly say, oh, the Soviet Union is terrible, let's get rid of them as soon as we can. You couldn't say that. Most people thought that, and this is the difference. Most people in Poland knew that the Communist Party, at least I'm talking about the last decade that I remember consciously of the communism. Earlier, there might have been some zealots. Probably there were quite a few. Some people might genuinely believe that communism might be an alternative to free market, Western type style of economy and political system. But when I was, you know, a teenager and a young adult, I knew maybe one person, maybe two in my whole life who genuinely believed in that, and they were a bit of eccentrics. You know, sometimes we even liked them because they were so different, and it was interesting to talk to them all, like as kind of curiosity type of experience. So anyway, people would watch what they say because they knew they would pay consequences. Like here at the school, a colleague of mine actually, before I went to that meeting, he said, Ben, just don't say anything, or watch what you say first, but best don't say anything, just because you get in trouble. Because we during breaks, we enjoyed conversations we had similar views. So probably he was more probably intelligent, more foreseeing, or was the English word. Later on, actually, I ran into him in the street in Cardiff, and I said, "Oh, hi, Nick, how are you doing? How are you doing? What's happening at the school?" And he said, "Listen, your case was like the warning. What did you call it? Like a shot across the bows.
A warning shot.
Yeah, like a warning shot, and I quit because it's too much. I've seen these situations not time and time again. Too much. I work in a different industry." He left. But what a shame, he was a good guy, good teacher assistant, very intelligent, would be able to engage with the kids in conversation that they needed that, not only the lessons, but during breaks, students like to talk. He would be very good, but he was afraid. And he said, "No, I can't work in this industry anymore." He's doing something else.
That's so interesting. And the second question is, I guess most people in this room will remember Solidarity in Poland, or Solidarność.
Oh yeah, Solidarity, yes. Oh, sorry, I forgot about the Polish aspect. I'm British now, basically. You've got proof now.
Was there something?
Where is Poland, by the way? Where is
It's up north somewhere.
Snow and vodka land. Oh yeah.
What was the sort of tipping point that, in your view, for the ordinary person, that helped bring about the end of communism? And do you think that the Brits, are we doomed to just sort of sleepwalk to disaster, or do you think that the sort of ordinary population in Britain has got any powers of resistance?
That's the $1 million question. Listen, when I come
have you observed any unusual resilience or anything in
I recently, because of my case and because of my political interests, I've always been a bit at odds with the establishment and the mainstream, the lazy type of thinking. For example, I supported Brexit, and in the education industry, most people were pro-Brexit, pro-EU, especially most people that came from the continent, like Poles. I don't know any other Poles who supported genuinely Brexit. I actually distributed leaflets with Debbie Pitt, who is here with me in Cardiff. We were attacked by a couple of anarchists who called us Nazis. We were, we had a businessman, a former GP, and a teacher, and these guys they were about to use violence on us, and they called us fascists and Nazis, and fundamentalists, whatever.
This is the inversion, isn't it? Words are violence, but actual violence doesn't matter anymore. Okay, we're going
sorry, because I'm getting, but this is an important point. In Poland, at the end, everybody knew the system has no chance. It was only because of the Soviet Union next door. The moment the Soviet Union showed weakness, we got rid of them. The problem here is that some people genuinely believe, and we've got these the woke brigades, many young people seem to be lost. They genuinely believe that the destruction of the family, that the redefinition of man, woman, sex, gender is a crucial part of the new brave world, the new beautiful world. They genuinely believe that you must destroy some definitions, that you must destroy churches. For example, churches are a big enemy, especially the Catholic Church, which is most dogmatically we toe the line. The Anglican change, yes, but dogmatically we say the right thing, we don't do the right thing, we are lazy. My bishop told me I don't get involved in these sort of things. I said, just speak up for Christians who have to go underground in the education system. And he said, no, I mean, in probably more polite words, but no, I don't get involved in this sort of thing. So who does?
So do you see any hope for us at all?
I do, because of people like you, and most people are reasonable. They are just lazy, indifferent, or really afraid to lose jobs. Like most people were reasonable at the school. Most of them were just afraid to speak up. For example, the woke brigade was very active. As I told you, they were snitching on me. There must have been, I don't know about everything, but there must have been, they were talking to the headmaster. Oh, we are offended. Who can be offended for hearing that in a Christian school that marriage is man and a woman? They were not offended. They were just pretending. But the common sense brigade, so to speak, we were lacking it. If someone would come up to the headmaster and ask the next day, oh, where is Ben? Because some people I know they expected what would happen, and then I got that confirmed. I don't know if anybody who went there said, So is that right? He lost the job for what? For just saying something in
I mean,
sense. If there were more people who would speak up, he would then think, "Oh, yes, I'm tempted to go with the woke brigade. Maybe I'm woke myself." But the common sense people like us, we're not present at the school, or we're afraid. Yeah, job, mortgage. I kind of understand it, but
even that concept is things have changed so much. It used to almost be an anti-British thing, the idea of, snitching, telling tales, running to mummy. The kid who snitched on the bully at school was almost like as useless as the bully, because you didn't tell tales on other people. But as you say,
it's very un-British, I have to say. But I like to think it's un-British, because I still think British is a robust discussion. This is what I encountered when I first came here, and earlier when I was interested in Britain. When I lived in Poland, America as well.
Did you admire British?
Yeah, absolutely. Robust debate. I loved watching the programs as much as my English allowed me. People were
Britain was articulate. Very supportive of Poland and
but what I liked is
the
freedom of speech, the robust debate. And now what's happening is you can't talk about some issues. So it's becoming so.
I think Poland has gone forward and we've gone back.
As far as free speech, absolutely. You can say stuff in Poland that here you would be arrested for immediately.
I'm just going to throw this out, and then we're going to do the questions. But this is a very startling statistic. Konstantin Kisin, who is a social commentator, and I think he's the child of Russian emigres, I think.
Jewish Russian, yeah.
And he said, do you know how many people were arrested for hate crimes that were just verbal?
I think I saw that piece of statistics, shocking. I can't remember, but hundreds, isn't it?
In Russia, last year, 400 people in Russia, 400 people were arrested for verbal hate crimes. Don't know what the outcome of those were, how many were convicted, but 400 people were arrested. In this country, hands up everyone who thinks that the equivalent number would be over 1,000. Over 2,000. Okay, the actual number is 3,300 compared to Russia's 400. So that's why I asked, has Poland gone forward while we've gone back? Anyway, we're going to do questions at last.
I think there was a lady in glasses over there that waited a long time, and then I think.
Okay, yeah, let's.
Okay, well, a lot of this is just comments. I was an NHS whistleblower, so I actually know exactly what you're going through. And I did it because of my Christian views. It wasn't directly about my Christian views, but I ended up whistleblowing because I was Christian. I've been Christian for 40 years, and I've also been a street preacher. When we street preach quite often, we have the police right next to us watching everything we say. So we're really careful when we talk on the streets about what we say.
Do you have a question for Ben? I'm going to repeat all this so that people on Zoom can hear. But
a question for
Ben.
Yeah. Then I'm coming to it. Biblical views are completely biblical. But I think also we have to develop that skill of wisdom, and our pulpits haven't been protected. I had a Romanian trainee who raised concerns about Christian freedom back about 20 years ago, and I didn't really listen to her. Same sort of stuff you're saying. I applied to Costa for the bail of Northern, but I warned them I was a Christian and that I wouldn't encourage any child in my care to be trans. And they told me they wouldn't allow me to Costa. What I was going to go roundabout, I wanted to say, if you have a Christian concern.
Yes. Yeah, they offered to help, legal help, but I went with Paul Diamond eventually. But yes, they were brilliant.
I think the issue in Wales could be devolution. I think from my own experience, there's been a breakdown of human rights laws, and certainly human rights laws within public services in Wales are rubbish. Jane Pat is the Minister for Equality and Diversity.
Yes.
Maybe she's the person.
I've contacted her actually. She said she would like to meet me, but then I haven't heard when I said, well, yes, why not? Good idea. I don't think I've heard. I need to check actually my email box.
Because in my opinion,
okay.
I'm not a big fan of that sort of people that she's been quite supportive.
Yeah,
of me.
and you need to use all the avenues you have here for the good cause. Yeah,
Okay.
but it's an interesting point and interesting question because part of the campaign is for people like you or me in some contexts when I mention or talk about my Christian views in public, because in the churches we are still safe. Although I heard about an idea in America somewhere that they wanted to ban the Bible because it's full of hate speech. One of the states, someone proposed that. They haven't done that, but you know, some people will do that one day. And you could argue that, yeah, there are controversial things there, but this is the whole point about free speech. If you start canceling controversial things, we're not going to be able to read the Christmas Carol probably next year, because I'm sure there's something there that is politically incorrect. So it's for people like you that you should have the right to stand in the street. You know, you're evangelical or Pentecostal, whatever, I'm Catholic, we may disagree about things. Okay, born again, I'm born again too, I like to think. But anyway, we can disagree, but you can go, you should have the right to whatever's in the Bible, especially the New Testament, because obviously we don't, the stoning of adultery, you know, we don't teach everything that is the Bible, we don't preach that anymore. But the New Testament, you should have the right to stand in the street and to say that, and nobody should be able to touch you unless you're walking behind someone and shouting, "Oh, you're gay, you go to hell." Yeah, fair enough, you're harassing someone. But if you just stand in and in a civil way proclaim your views, nobody should have a right to touch you, to say anything against you. That's the idea of this new law. It's supposed to, the Equality Act is supposed to be doing that, but it's not. I lost my job with the Equality Act. There, it has been there for whatever, 10 years or more, and it hasn't done it's not doing its job very often. So yeah.
So this lady was spent 40 years as a nurse, worked for the NHS, was a whistleblower, as a doctor, sorry, and
I was a doctor for 30 years.
A doctor for 30 years, and as a street preacher is constantly followed by the police and not allowed, been told that you're not allowed to foster because of your views on transgender children, was it?
Just in general, I said I wouldn't encourage any child in my care to be transgender.
Not allowed to become a foster parent because of views on transgender children or children who may be transgender. Gentleman over there had a question.
Yeah. And I have two questions. The first one is, what's the current running total of churches that declare themselves as backing you, whether it be Roman Catholic, evangelical, any denomination really? What's the total in the UK, and what's the total across the rest of the world that are backing you at the moment? And the second question is, to your knowledge, when is the court case likely, and which court will it be in?
Okay, just let me redo that for the Zoom. How many I mean, I think we're going to talk about main churches, not 1,600.
No, I want to remember. I remember how many so far.
I don't. Well, I'm not sure.
No, it's a good question. It's a good question.
Individual responses from all the questions. How many churches?
And it's simple to answer that.
How many churches are backing Ben in his action, and when is the court case going to take place?
Yeah, a very good question. This is actually what I'm doing at the moment. One of the main things, I'm contacting various organizations, churches as well. But again, I want to make it a slightly bigger issue, as I've mentioned. I believe it is. For example, the Free Speech Union, they haven't committed yet to endorsing this campaign publicly, but I think they will. They are sympathetic. They say we sympathize with the cause, and I hope they will, in one way or another, endorse it at least. I've had support. Yes, I mean via email. We've been in touch via email. So organizations, there's probably at the moment 4 organizations, 3 of them Christian, that said yes, we will endorse you. We are very likely. I'm still working on the details. I need to see obviously the ready plan for the campaign, all the steps and the whatever statements we will be publishing for the media, or at least the outline more specific than they know so far. As far as churches are Christian churches, this is the painful question. A lot of individual Christians express support, but as far as churches go, they are very cautious, or either indifferent or unwilling or very cautious. I understand cautious at this stage, although now with the decision of the local educational body they will have some confirmation that, you know, I'm vindicated, I didn't do anything wrong. So hopefully that will change. But it was the replies I was getting were very lukewarm. So that's a lot will depend on that, because if the churches will not publicly endorse it and not publicly support it, that will be just another petition with 250 signatures. And yeah, but
and he was very well received about these issues.
yes,
But
yes.
this was in the early days, so it's all very early
Yes.
for churches, individual churches, to know about this.
Yes.
There are lots of various Christians, Christian organisations like Christian Concern, Voice for Justice, that we're contacting about.
That's exactly the groups I had in mind.
But it needs a groundswell, really.
Yes.
It's still right.
Sure, sure. I'm also hoping to gain the support from Anglican Mainstream, the organization that has been supportive and also is. Yes.
Know about them. So I think that will grow.
Yeah, the committee of the church in Wales has actually voted for gay marriage, hasn't it, in recent years?
I know. I mean, the Anglican Church, to be quite honest, I'm not so on the ball where they are now regarding this. They are divided. I know they are divided. Some bishops don't, and some dioceses don't approve of that. They are divided, and in many ways. So I'm not an expert, but.
We have a cathedral in Newport, which used to be called St. Wallace. It's dropped that now, it's called Newport, so it's given up any pretense to Christianity, in my opinion. But last year, it actually flew the gay pride flag during Pride Week.
I know, it's very, very sad when you, I mean, you know, if someone supports this sort of ideology, fine, but you know, then don't pretend you're teaching Christianity, which is quite unequivocal on this. Maybe some people don't like it that it's so, but it you know, once we start tinkering with the words of Jesus and the disciples, there's nothing left. You can unpick everything. So this is but again, it's not these religious differences and problems are a separate matter. Most Christians today, mainstream Christians, believe that marriage is man and a woman, that when you're born a man, you're born a man. Obviously, some people have very difficult situations, but it's not as simple as just a declaration. I now declare myself a woman, plus all these very dangerous and harmful transitioning policies and procedures started at a very early age that the lady was mentioning, very harmful, and a lot of people, experts, are admitting it's a massive problem. It's a massive mistake.
It's very experimental, isn't it? Did you personally find that? I mean, do you have your own church that you constantly go to? Have they been supportive? Have you found a lot of
yes, personally. But when I said, would you support me publicly, they referred me to the bishop. That's we are very hierarchical structure, the Catholic Church. So my local priest said, yeah, no, that's terrible. I'll pray for you. I'm with you. But that's what I meant. For a public support endorsement, you need to do it through the top guy.
No, I just meant more in the people traditionally used to go to their churches for personal emotional support. I'm not talking about helping you with your campaigns or anything. Did you find that your church was emotionally supportive of you?
I'm not sure if everybody knows about the case. I did let some of my friends, Catholic friends, know, and some of them were, not as many as I expected, to be quite honest. And I have to say, my Anglican friends and evangelical friends were more supportive. So I'm really impressed. And
did you get any criticism? Were you told you brought it on yourself?
Yes, I'll tell you. A couple of people said, "Oh no, yeah. If you say something like this, you know what's going to happen to you." Yes, there were some voices that really said you should have stayed quiet. So,
did that remind you of Poland and the communist regime?
Actually, I say most people in Poland, if someone's dared to speak up, you would get encouragement. People would, or at least, like when the first secretary of the local party unit wasn't looking, they would say yes. But then, so everybody knew it's a sham. We are pretending. Here, unfortunately, some people do believe that this is important, this direction in which the wokeism is going these days. I think there's one more question.
Yes, one more question.
Yeah, just going back to my second question. There's a lot of people in the room that support Public Child Protection Wales, and obviously followed.
I'm one of them, yeah.
Which Paul Diamond was the barrister for that piece as well. just so that people know how to rally and support you in this outside the court, do you know which court it's likely to be and roughly when?
The only thing I saw in the email correspondence is the Employment Tribunal Wales. I don't even know when it's located. And I would like to get your feedback if you have any thoughts. I'm even thinking of contacting big groups or other religions outside Christianity. For example, with the people who are involved in the preparation of the campaign, we were thinking of reaching out, as you say these days, to some Muslim groups. For example, we know that public child protection had some support from, or maybe a lot of support from Muslim. Obviously, there is some potential problem there, because I'm encouraging absolute freedom for Christians to express Christian views. I wouldn't say the same of all Islamic views. There are some views in the Sharia law that I'm not sure if we wouldn't be comfortable in being proclaimed. So there's some problem there, but at least as far as the traditional family goes, the traditional understanding of man and a woman, and sexuality and basic moral precepts, I think there could be a constructive cooperation. So I'm thinking about this. It would be a bit funny, a Christian campaign with
note of Mohammed Hussein. He was the senior imam in Birmingham, and I was involved with him in presenting a jihad against Muslims who wanted to persecute Salman Rushdie.
Really?
Yes, I actually got a signed jihad against them.
Wow.
Just to
I've still got it. I published it as well. But no newspaper had the courage to publish it because they thought they might get fired on.
But this also shows what a sensitive, area this is. So probably one of the advantages of this campaign that I'm thinking of is that it's so streamlined. If the campaign goes too wide, it might distract a little bit. It might lose a little bit of the sharp edge. If it's as simple as I suggested at the beginning, no person will be prosecuted or discriminated against for expressing Christian views, full stop. I think that makes it.
There is a drawback to what you're saying, which is, may I liken it to Japanese knotweed? You're currently cutting the tips off the branches. If you can't get rid of the roots, you're wasting your time.
But I can't even do properly one thing at a time. So I
start with the roots.
And it must be, listen, this might be a very good idea for another campaign. It takes all sorts, it takes all of us, all talents. I see an opportunity here. This is something I believe in. And I think that would be quite a victory. Not to mention a law like that, which probably is unlikely to be passed, but highlighting the issue. Imagine around Christmas, I had this idea of an advert. Can I very briefly describe it?
Of course.
2 minutes or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Imagine you see something on YouTube or on television, beautiful images of some of the most wonderful aspects of Christianity that everybody likes and has warm feelings about. Christian wedding, Christmas carols, beautiful cathedrals, charity organizations, gospel singers, young people singing gospel hymns, a Christian funeral, the late Queen giving
King's coronation.
Yeah, the coronation. The late Queen, one of the was it Christmas talks or New Year Christmas talks? I think a Christmas message.
Oh yeah.
What was
the Queen?
Yes.
Now the King's Christmas message. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So something warm, and then suddenly when we are watching this beautiful music, Amazing Grace, How Great Thou Art, even The Land of My Fathers, I think is a Christian hymn, isn't it?
Yes.
There's Christian allusions there, and suddenly you get black and white with jarring sound effects. Ben Dybowski sacked from work for expressing Christian belief. John Brown lost his business because couldn't trade. Stephen Smith, whatever, and names suddenly appear, and we've got this contrast between the beauty of the Christian tradition. Even if you're not Christian, a lot of it is beautiful and moving, and we feel warm about it. And suddenly we highlight, wow, the Queen talks about Jesus, and then that lady talks about Jesus and is arrested. or banned from some public place. I think a lot of people would think, hang on, this is so un-British, you know, I don't care about the church, I just go, you know, march and dispatch, but, you know, still, I don't like the idea that in my country, people can't talk about Jesus. My grandmother was Christian.
Just to go back to that lady over there, have you ever filmed the, you said that the police was sort of constantly surveilling you as you were street preaching. Have you ever filmed them doing that, or would you consider doing anything like that?
They've never actually done anything.
It sounds like a form of harassment.
Yeah, it's slightly harassing, but also you've got to understand that in Cardiff Centre, if you go around with a big megaphone preaching the gospel, you also get weirdos come up and go completely berserk with you. So there's also that area of that they're standing there and they're a little bit harassing, but they're also protecting. So I wouldn't really. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It kind of be nice to do that.
Okay.
I think there is a.
Do you think there's a bit of Christian persecution seeping back in?
Yeah.
That's been your experience.
I mean, Christian persecution here, yes, definitely.
Yeah. Sorry, so another question from over there.
For the purposes of following everything to support you, what are the best websites to follow? What's going on? So that
this is the one. I haven't updated it for a moment, but now with the decision of the EWC, so simply my name, bendybowski.com, BN. You probably you've got one of those different. And I'm just preparing a few updates, and I also promise whoever has emailed me, I am going to reply. Although in some cases it's been quite a few weeks, but there's been so much happening, and also I'm lazy too. So I have to admit, sometimes at least.
Are there any others, or is it just that for now?
For just that, we've got a trial version of the campaign website, but we are waiting to get a few more faces. And actually, when I listen to you, maybe you know someone, maybe even you might consider becoming. Obviously, you know, it's don't have to answer now. One of the faces. I would like 3. At the moment, we've got 3 people. I would like a bit more, 5. That would be, you know, people who have paid some price for holding and expressing Christian views. So they would go to Buckingham Palace. They would be in the photographs for the media, and then obviously all the other supporters would be right behind them. But I think
it'll be a full campaign.
yes, and so that's the idea. We are, as soon as we have another person or 2 who will agree, because there's lots of people who have paid the price, but not everybody wants to, you know, front a campaign. It's a commitment.
You can't deliver anything to Buckingham Palace.
I don't know. You can via post. Yeah,
we'll have a try. We'll make a paper.
I looked it up. There's an address. No, there is an address. You use.
No, I use 25 members of the House of Lords.
Okay.
But it's more for the press, not for the king. I mean, so I shouldn't be saying this.
It requires a member of the House of Lords to sponsor.
We're going to run out of time, and this one lady has one last question. This will be the last question.
I'll just ask, because sorry, before you ask the question, there will be a copy of this. The same petition will go to Parliament, because we realize obviously the king doesn't pass laws in this country. So the king is more for PR purposes, and hopefully he will speak up. But there will be a carbon copy that will go to Parliament, because Parliament makes laws. So it will be a joint petition.
You require 100,000 signatures minimum.
Oh yes, for it to
Every
be.
single signature must be identifiable with a postcode.
No.
This is to be debated in the Commons, isn't it?
But we can deliver. We can.
Yeah, as a publicity. I think the idea of the petition is a publicity.
It's more publicity exercise, yeah.
Probably, you know, I mean, it may
Why not
lead.
get a debate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if we manage to, yeah.
Should we take this lady's question?
Yes, sorry.
And then everyone can go back to the bar and have another drink.
My mum, back when I was a kid, wrote to the Queen and said it was very unfair that her husband was working in the Middle East when she had 2 little children when they were in forces. And the Queen wrote a very nice letter back saying, I absolutely agree with you, my dear, but I don't really know what I can do.
That's still cool. Quite a nice thing to get a letter. Listen, and before Catherine or David to wrap it up formally, I just wanted to thank you very much for turning up. Thanks for your interest. If you feel that this is something that you might spread the news about around or support, please do. We are thinking with Catherine of doing something locally, like a free speakers corner in Cardiff, maybe once a month to record it. We could even come to ask, although I was thinking of organizing it in some smaller places, but it's such a nice, quiet place that probably we don't want people standing on soapboxes and banging on about politics. Maybe that would ruin something here. But
Us to be a lot less intimidating than Cardiff.
So thanks again.
Anyway, thanks for your talk,
viewers.
If anyone is interested in free speeches or in Ben, we have flyers for Ben here. We have some free speeches stuff over there. Do pick up a card. And let us hope for ever more talk and more dialogue and more viewpoints. The more the better. The only way to combat bad speech is for even more speak. Thanks very much. I should have said thanks very much to Free Libertarians for letting us have this platform as well.
That's fine. But first of all, can I thank you all for turning up, as I did earlier on. It's very, very important. We've heard, I think, some very, very interesting facts here. It could affect any one of us at any time. It's so fundamental, the right, whether it be about Christian beliefs, or whether it be just about your own beliefs or thoughts about how things should be run or done. If they're cutting down on free speech, and this is where the free speech is certainly coming in, if they're cutting down on free speech, that's the first sign of tyranny, and there's no doubt about that, and it is going on, and they are trying to stop anybody who doesn't agree with their particular political views or ideas, and these people are very, very powerful, and they're getting into different institutions. We've got to weed them out, and we have to, without any doubt, we just have to fight this. I encourage you to get hold of Ben to actually go onto his website. And you'll be updating us and keeping us informed on what's being done. And I'm sure we will all be backing you, Ben. We think it's a very, very important matter, not just for you as an individual, but for all of us and our freedoms. So thank you all for turning up, and thank you in particular, Ben and Catherine, for giving us very interesting evening. Thank you all.